Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the kickoff for Cartography, a final project, and I'll be going over some items from for what you'll be doing for the final project. Let's see, and I'm Nathan Bowden, obviously. So, as you guys already know, the Water Board of North Brabant has decided to take a look at the quality of the Mark River. This is, of course, very similar, if actually exactly similar to your project, urban ecology. So, in order to fulfill this new idea to look at the water quality, they've asked you to give a presentation, a poster presentation of your research. So that's the background of the final project. So they are interested in the following things. They're following water quality points. First is nutrients, and the second is heavy metals. The third is the microbiology of the water, and lastly, water quality. So these are the things you want to present in your poster presentation for the water board. So the purpose of this poster is to make several maps, so you can visually visually present the results of your research to the water board, Brabant's Delta. Of course, you guys are still working in the lab, and you haven't gotten all your results. So some of the results that you will be putting in your final report will be false, will be fictitious. That's fine. Of course, obviously, for your final report, we want the real data, but the purpose of this report is just to get the format down for your maps so that you can apply these to your research, which you'll get the results for the next week or two. So your poster should include 5 maps, and the maps should be approximately the following. The first, a reference map of Breda and the Mark River. Obviously, I have to mention this is only for the people who are here in the Netherlands. If you are in Romania or Hungary or Spain, you will have different reference map. I hope that's kind of obvious. So for Spain, you will need to give a reference map of the river that you're investigating. The same thing for Hungary and Romania. And they also need 4 thematic maps. Thematic maps of the nutrients, so that depends on what you did in the lab, but that should be something like nitrogen, that's total nitrogen, ammonium or nitrate, and phosphate. Then you have the heavy metals. I don't mean Megadeth. I mean nickel, copper. I believe you looked at lead. Maybe there's a 4th one. I can't recall all of them. Next is the next one is microbiology, specifically nutrient agar and nutrient McConkey. And lastly, water clarity. And what I mean by water clarity is the physical characteristics. You can suspended solids is probably the best, but also dissolved solids. So those 2 things was what you want to show in the water clarity map. How you do that, of course, is completely up to you. So as I say, also don't forget to add a little bit of text to your poster presentation. The poster isn't just 5 maps, all the same size, put together on, in a flash without thinking about it, and there you go. No, you have to really think about putting a couple of text things. Obviously, title, the people who made the map, so your project group, but also things like research question and results or conclusions. So you'll have to have, I expect to have a few text boxes with important results, which is standard for a poster. It's not just visual data, but also textual data. Things you should think about, and you must include in your especially your thematic maps on nutrients, etc., are a color scheme. Obviously, land is normally about greenish, and cities are beige or tan colored. So what kind of color scheme do you have? You're not going to make the land purple and the cities, um, I don't know, lavender. I mean, think about it. Think about quantitative symbology. How are you going to show levels? Quantitative symbology, remember, you can use colors. So intensity, normally red is very high and blue is very low. So if you make the river blue, it has low levels of nitrogen, and or red, it has high levels of nitrogen. But then high level compared to what? Are you going to compare it to the European standards? Um, so how are you going to break the data? Are you going to do it by natural breaks? Are you going to do it defined by your own standards? And also for quantitative symbology, you can use colors, but you can also use pie charts and symbols that get bigger or smaller depending on if it's above or beyond limits. So you have to really think about that. Scale. Do you want to show just the river? Do you want to show all of the region? Yeah. Labels. What are you going to label? What aren't you going to label? Data points. Are you going to show where you sampled? And lastly, I mentioned before I go into more details about making a poster, be sure to think about your audience. That's me, basically, and the message that you want to convey before starting, before you even open ArcMaps. Think about what you want to show. Draw it on a piece of paper. You should spend basically as much time designing it in your mind and with your teammates as you do on the computer. Computer should just kind of be, well, okay, I would do it faster than you, for sure, but spend more time than you really think right now, maybe, designing your poster so that you know exactly what to do when you open Google Maps. I mean ArcGIS. Silly. Okay. A lot of you have never made a poster in ArcMap, so I want to show you how to do that. And this is an old version, but it's basically the same. Normally, when you start ArcMap, it starts here on this data part. But the poster itself is at the next point. I'll show you in the next slide what I mean. So normally you see this, right? So here is your table of contents on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side you have the visual part. But if you click here, you go to what is the poster part. So if you click there, you see this, right? So here is where you work. You work here in the data view. You work here in the data view, but it looks like that on the poster. So you can resize it because I'm still here in the poster view. The map was the entire poster, but you can resize it. This one would be like a good start at a reference map. But this were just, let's say I was going to go to the United States, and they don't know where Brabant is in the Netherlands. So if I had a reference map, I might want a reference map of just this is North Brabant, and within the Netherlands. But if you're giving a reference map to somebody who already knows where North Brabant is, then maybe this isn't necessary. I say it wouldn't be necessary. However, if you are in Spain or in Romania, it might be nice to show a more general reference map. So think about your audience. You can add a second map in the poster. So here I still am in this page view. I'm going to insert data frame. And as you see what happened here on the left-hand side, there's a new data frame, and there's a new map here in the center. You can then go back to this data view and add more data. So when you're working in data view, you only see one data frame. Yeah, and then you go to, you can do things like clipping, right? I clipped, this is not rivers, but imagine this is rivers. I could clip the rivers just of North Brabant out of the entire Netherlands. Buffer it if I wanted to. So it looks like that. And then when I go back to the general layout view, I now have two maps. This is for the entire Netherlands, and this is zoomed in. Now, if I were go back to the data view here, and I zoomed in, it would also zoom in here. Yeah. So what you see in the data view is what this window, this data frame sees. Yeah. So the more you zoom in on the on this tab, the more you zoom in here also, and it automatically shows it. You can add a title by doing insert title, but you can also insert text, a legend, an arrow, a scale bar. These are all things you might want to consider in your project. Also, so here's a map title, here's some text, etc. Lastly is, yeah, it's just zoomed in. I'm back on the data view. I see now that I'm actually missing one slide I added. Actually, a couple of slides I added today. I added this presentation is the wrong one. Oops, I opened it. Sorry. But I can just tell you where it's in the slides. So the question you might have is, where is the data to use? The data to use is in the project Urban Ecology Blackboard site under Documents, GIS. So I invite you to go there, go to the Blackboard site, and I'm going to pause this and hopefully find the sheets that aren't in this presentation. I'll be right back. And also, of course, you can ask questions now. Okay, I found the missing sheet about data. And like, as I mentioned, on the project site, I think there's enough data on the project site, at least for the people here in Brabant. There are enough people there's enough data on the project site to do this poster. There's probably way too much even. However, if you don't quite find exactly what you're looking for, there are other sites that you can use for data. The first here is the OpenStreetMap.nl, where you can download. There's actually there's a lot of data here. There's a new topo map at a 10-meter scale of the Netherlands. This is a slightly newer version of the one that we have on Blackboard. I don't think things have changed too much, but this link here is from 2014, and I think the map on Blackboard is 2010. Other sources are OpenDataNederland.org, and also Esri has its own data. Of course, you can also create your own data if you like. And it takes a little bit of time, but if you want to add polygons to make a new layer, it shouldn't take you too much time to do that. Just in a half an hour, you could probably make quite a bit of polygons. It's also a good exercise. Opening an editing session and adding polygons to a layer. Yeah. And that was the missing slide that I promised you.